Good evening, people. Thrash Pondo here, and I'm speaking to you live from my palatial estate here in the late great state of Massachusetts, Cape Cod specifically. When you're enjoying a particularly busy Fourth of July weekend, last couple of days have been uber cray cray, as the cray cray kids are saying these days. Anyway, I'm a tad early as I usually am. I'm allowing for catastrophic system failures, of which I am almost too well known. Waiting for some of my armies of followers to show up. So far, I'm an army of one, and we're not doing real well. But I'm gonna think positively and keep looking at the chat until the gang starts pouring in. And oh, we have a winner. And it looks like Sean in this. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on to be sure. But yes, it's Sean Innes, and he says, hello. And a hello to you too, Sean. Christopher is here, by the way. Christopher, he says, good evening, Bob. Christopher, good evening to you too, by the way. And I love those photos you sent, by the way, from the Cryptid Museum up in Maine. Great stuff, great stuff. Oh, and while you guys are here, as always, how's the sound and picture quality? I remember Gary and a few other people said the sound was down. I was checking my default settings, and for some reason, my sound was really low. I didn't think to check that today while I was doing the system check. But anyway, you guys can either confirm or deny whether or not you can hear me. Oh, waiting in fullness. Oh, by the way, come on. I got two of you here and only one like. We can do better than that. Come on. Whichever one of you is lollygagging, hit that like, please. Sound is fine. Video is okay. Might have something to do with the backlighting. I fear, by the way, it's still broad daylight here on Cape Cod. I blocked it off with a curtain. Um, You think I could try to adjust the focus on my camera? You think that would help, or do you think it's just as the outdoor lighting gets dimmer, I may become sharper? You tell me, because remember that happened before. I was doing a daytime post, and it was a muggy day anyway, but it looked like I was in a rainforest. So let me know if you think. Yeah, I'll tweak the camera if you want me to. I would just hate to take it off. It's because everything is just so, as you know. Sean says hi. Ken is. Oh, hold on one sec. I just get one of those weird, like, hey, would you like to? My computer loves to ask me if I want to do stuff, which I don't want to do. And so I'm like, no, leave me alone. I'm in the middle of something. He said, Ken is lollygagging. Does that mean, Sean, you were the one who hit the like button? I'm sure that was you. But anyway, we're 2 for 2 now. Actually, we're 2 for 4. So I have two people lurking in the shadows. Whom they shall be is up to us to see. But anyway, feel free to say hi in the comments below or to the side. I will never get that right, to the side. It's a reverse image, as I'm sure we all know. But anyway, to the two of you who are here but haven't made your presence known, welcome to the party. Today is just going to be sort of a casual Independence Day live chat. Let me know how your weekend was. Let me know what holiday traditions you have. Sean says, not sure what it is. The video looks like the camera lens may be dirty. Just looks a little diffused, almost foggy. It did that before, but it has to do with, you can actually see the light coming through the mesh here. It's broad daylight. For some reason, when I get backlighting, let me just hold still just a sec, guys. I'm gonna that seems a little sharper to me. Is that better for you guys? Anyway, I hate messing with the camera while I'm actually doing a chat, but anything for you folks. Let me know if that's any better. Harold the Hatter is here. He says, Thrash Pondo. Harold, so good to see you. Is this the second or third time? I know I saw you at Lobo Griss's live stream. And were you also at Chances? But either way, wherever I saw you, welcome. JRA is here and says it's the old horror trick of Vaseline on the lens. That's actually how they got the effect for the hover speeder in Star Wars. It actually was on some type of chassis, but they blurred it out with Vaseline. Hey, it worked. But GRA, welcome to the party, and thank you for pointing that out. I like to think the picture's a little better now. Sean says, yeah, could be the backlighting. I wouldn't worry about it, Thrash. Now you tell me. Anyway, like I said, it looks a little crisper now that I've messed with it. So Gary Cameron says, hi there, everyone. I'm back. Did you guys see that? Yeah, we have a haunted house, as I'm sure you know. And the light in the dining room just sometimes gets brighter and dimmer for reasons not entirely sure. Oh, hey, be a dear. Could you turn that dimmer down just a little bit for me? Thank you very much. Number one granddaughter. She's a gem. Oh, that's perfect. Thank you, dear. And let's see what else we get going on here. Sean's welcoming JRA and Gary. And Gary is also back. Not much change there then. Johnny Ortiz here says, hey, Thrash, we will try again this week. Yes, we will. Missed him by that much. I got the phone call that you made, but I was actually at work at the time. And boss has a really big thing about using the phone while on the sales floor. Cindy says, hello, everybody. Cindy, so nice to see you. Welcome. Danny's here. He says, greetings from South Carolina. Danny, so great to see you as well. And Zublik says, this is early. Yeah, I allowed for some catastrophic systems failures, and I never think catastrophic, but I've been messing with the picture. By the way, is the picture gooder or less good now? Anyway, you folks let me know, and we will move forward accordingly. Anyway, how was everyone's 4th of July weekend? Hope it was all good. Jerry says storms here in the south. We had some light rain. We had some nasty storms last week, but we had some light rain. Hey, I hope you're not in Texas because they're about to get nailed by that Hurricane Beryl. We're gonna roll out the barrel. We'll have. I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist. Denny says looks good. Superlook says the video definition is poorer. Oh, okay, I'm gonna try this one more time, guys. Everybody think positively. All right. That's he. So I think right about there is about as good as we're gonna do. And part of the problem, by the way, Zoop, we discussed is the backlighting is still broad daylight, and as you know, that's my deck door. A lot of people saying hello to one another. Dominic D's here says, hey, Bob. Hey, everyone. Hey to you too, Dominic D. So good you could make it. Danny says storms here too. Ziplik says bad news in Jamaica. Oh, my heart goes out to our Jamaican cousins. Dominic D says message retracted, and a message retracted to you too. Oh, it was retracted by Cindy D. I see. Cindy D, I see. And when it's raining, Danny says at least it's cools off when rains from 106 to 74 in 20 minutes. Wow, that's kind of a drastic drop. Here our problem is it'll cool off when it rains, but then it gets muggy. We become like a rainforest. Crazy. Cindy said hello to Ken, Sean, Thresh, Zuper, and hello, Dominic D. Sean says to me specifically, can you see if your camera lens is shaded? Is it like shining directly on it? No, it is not. And it's just a cheap camera. I think my brother-in-law got it for me for like $30. Someday I'll invest in a better one. But hey, like I see, you can only work with this so much. It's more the sound. I found poor sound is what's really, really bad. Cindy says, sorry, I hit the wrong button. I was wondering. I didn't want to point fingers, Cindy, but I thought that's what happened. I think I did that at least one occasion where because I have a touch screen and it's a really sensitive touch screen, and if you touch the wrong spot, it thinks you want to do one thing and not the other. So that was very kind of you to say that, by the way. Oh, Denny fixed it. Good, good, good. Oh, what I did fixed it. Good, good, good. And Gary is high fiving Cindy, and Cindy says, "Thanks, Danny. So sorry." Oh, I see. You timed him out. He just returned his message. You timed him out. Harold says, "Look at me. I'm Cindy. Love it, love it, love it." Zubik says, "Are you sure the lens is clean?" I am so not sure. I don't know if I've ever cleaned it since I got it. So I would say the lens is not clean. In fact, it's probably filthy. But if I try to clean it right now, it would be gauche. So I'll clean it for next time. And Angela McCardle is here. I'm sorry, McArdle is here. Says hello. Angela, so glad you could make it. Welcome. And Jared says, "What's the trivia? Patriotic sitcom episodes?" No, that would be great. That would be great. But last week I specifically got a request for David Bowie trivia, and I couldn't resist a request. So it's actually David Bowie. Oh, also, did I ever read you guys? I had a series of SNL questions. Did I ever read you the SNL? Um, Here, I'll give you a sample question. Before becoming an SNL, that's all, folks. Before becoming an SNL staple, Adam Sandler performed characters on this short-lived game show. If that sounds familiar, let me know. If it doesn't, I'll do it some other time. Or maybe tonight as a phase two. Hey, Super, wouldn't you love that if I did 2 trivia games in one night? Gary says to Harold, watching Grease again, are we? And I love people having. Oh, Zupalik says, spit on it. Ew. And Dominic's still laughing about being blocked. And he's apologizing again. And he says, no problemo. And Zubik says, I think so. You're just saying that because you want me to do it again tonight. Angela says, LOL, you pronounced my last name very well. Thank you. Thank you, my dear. I had to take a stab at it. Oh, and Harold says yes. So I guess I did do that trivia. Good, good. I'm getting so forgetful in my old age, at least by my recollection. And Angela, yes, it was remote control. So either you have a very good memory or you remember the question from before, which would constitute a good memory. Oh, John B. Adventures is here, dropping big love thrash. Been with virus. I'm getting better. Blessings. John, so glad you could make it. Somebody, Danny, please drop a link for John P. Adventures. He's been putting out some great UFO footage lately. He put out a UFO bonanza earlier today, and all I can think of is, oh yes, we have no bonanza. We have no bonanza today. Sorry. Cindy says, you did SNL trivia right, Thrash. I did. Good, good. Thank you. Oh, Lindsay here says, hi, gang. Lindsay, so good to see you. Harold says, Zerblix is trying to get Thrash to be Hawk to a girl and spit on that thing. That has become a phenomenon, hasn't it? Oh, by the way, Danny, I'll drop a link for Harold the Hatter as well. And Len says, hey, Thrash, and hey to you too, Lens. So glad you could make it this evening. Keithy is here, says, a coal miner walks into a bar, and the bartender says, we don't serve miners here. But, bump. Although, was he a coal miner or a diamond miner? I don't know if that makes any difference, but it's all I could think of on such short notice. And Diddy's dropping us links. Thank you. And then just says, I watched Remote Control a lot back then. A girl I know actually dated Ken Ober briefly. He was living in Martha's Vineyard for a while before he passed. And John B says, Bonanza gig. And Jerry says, Grease would be a top movie for me if actors wouldn't have looked 28 years old. I know, right? I know some of them were going gray. And Christopher says, good evening to Lance Buddy. And more links from Danny. Thank you. Gary says, I had an interesting week. Awesome. What was interesting about it? Please illuminate. And John says, let's get started. John Doe, so good to see you. The party started now that you're here. And John B. Avenger says, great. NYT. Great night, everyone. Thank you. So good to you to stop Bye. And he says, I love the remote control. Me too. Me too. Lasted 3 seasons, and then I had a different girl each season. Colin Quinn. That was the first thing I remember Colin Quinn from as well. Um, and Dominic Lee says, I think Stockard Channing was in her 30s playing a high schooler. I think you were right. Well, Olivia Newton-John was 28, I believe. So she was pushing 30 as well. And Sean says to Harold the Header, you should be proud of me. I didn't go there. Where is Indy Spouts to witness my good behavior? Where is, oh, actually, I just saw him there. He's a little further down in the chat. And he says, Grease is the word. And Lynn says, I watched Axel F. Beverly Hills Cop for not too bad. It's been 40 years. No, it's actually a pretty slick movie. It holds up pretty well. And he says, your feed reminds me that I need to watch Shadows and Fog again. Yeah, another country heard from. Yeah, we think it's the backlighting, although I really should post. Should clean my lens. And hi, Mrs. Thrash. Yeah, she's saying hello to all, by the way. She's here to get her coffin nails. And let's see, what else is she doing here? Rummaging on the table for something. She's looking for one of something. She just showed me a number one. And, it would help if you told me what you're looking for. Oh, you found it. She found whatever it was she was looking for. And now she's looking for something again. She's getting really, really sick of me being Captain Exposition here. I guess I get you 2 bottles of your soda. And I'll just see. I think I missed somebody while I was teasing Mrs. Thrash. So I'm just going to go back here. Yeah, Shadows and Fog. And Gary says, I had bought some new cream for a rash. I have got. And I got sick of it. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's irony. That's irony. I'm actually, and I'm going to spare you the gory details. I was trying to break in a new pair of shoes because my old ones are crumbling fast, and I'm a real tough foot to fit 13 double wides. Wow. And they have to be skid free because I work in a kitchen, back and forth. And I put on these really uncomfortable shoes. They were actually an old pair that I was trying to re-break in. And I got a blister that big on the bottom of my foot. You ever blister on the bottom of your foot? It sucks. For the last 2 weeks, I felt as though I've been walking on a Lego. Only one that stuck there. Anyway, I'm not gonna be gross, but today, it drained. I'm like, I can walk. I can walk. I was doing the Watusi just to prove I could do it. So that was the big news of my weekend. Angela says the only movie I watched this weekend was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Finally, LOL. Still haven't seen it. Sean says Indy Spouts, and you said nothing of my reserve. And Len says Adam Sandler got his start on remote control. That was actually the question we came in on. Very good, Lens. You were so correct. Keithy says, throws my hands into the air and yells, I'm a witness. I'm a witness. Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Testify, testify, testify. There's a word that I never liked. John Doe says, I personally looked like faculty when I was a freshman in high school and pretty much didn't change physically. Crazy. I was the tallest kid in my class in 5th grade that I never grew an inch. Gary wants to know how it was. Angela. Zublik says, damned if you do and damned if you don't. I guess, Gary. Very zen of you. And Sean is saying thank you to Keith E. and jumped off the page. So we're just going to have to go back here. We will never turn the page. And, oh, here we are. And Angela says Colin Quinn was on SNL too. He was. Nothing much he was. And Cindy says, I just watched one of the guys in St. Elmo's Fire. A couple of truly 80s picks. A lot of people saying hi to Mrs. Thrash. Cindy says, it's wifey Thrash. I couldn't call her wifey with a straight face. And Angela says, Gary was great, heart pounding in the right spots. John says, what is the top ultimate 80s movie? Repo Man. Repo Man is the quintessential 80s movie. It just, whenever people say what movie capsulizes the spirit of the 80s, it is Repo Man on so many levels. Gary says it's raining here. Everything is cooling down now. And Dominic D says the lovely Carrie Werher was on remote control too. Um, Marisol, I think, was my favorite. And Teb says, Happy Sunday, fun day, Thrash. Teb, so nice of you to make it. Welcome to the party. And Jerry says, Frozen Empire was good overall, but I'm not 100% into them putting teenagers in the place of adults in Ghostbusters. Daryl Johnson here. He goes, Bob, Daryl, other brother, good to see you. And John says to Dominic D, yes, good old Carrie. She grew up not too far from me. I haven't seen her in anything lately, unfortunately. And a lot of people saying hello to one another. So I'm going to kind of skim through. Angela says, I need surgery on my hand. Ulna bone needs to shorten a bit. That sounds painful. Good luck, my lady. High five. Sorry, couldn't resist. Zublik says, did you check your right forearm T-pawns? Oh, this? That? Didn't I tell you guys about that last week? I was sitting on a couple of milk crates rolling up rolled silverware for the tables, and I had to pull back to get something, and the floor in the kitchen was wet, and it was a stack. It was one milk crate on top of the other. The bottom one kicked out, bam, cracked my arm on the one that I fell on, and I had this huge, livid purple. It looked like frozen hamburger. Mrs. Thrash, what did my arm look like? Oh, it was gross with the girls reading. But yeah, I had a big nasty bruise. But anyway, it's much better now. Thank you for asking, Zoop. Keithy says, play Canon Gary. Good to see you both. Siri is killing Ken's name. Well, the spirit is in there, Keith. And good to see you as well. And John says you have you just jumped there, but yes, it should be healing up nicely, John. Thank you for asking. Wow, I'm further back than I thought. Keely says, Angela, I don't want to say much, but I hope your week worked out good. Mine was okay, but it's just what we have to get through. Got it. Cindy says, sing it, Thrash. LOL. Danny says, I'm trying to sit through the Batman 30-minute at a time dark nightmare of a movie so far. Sorry, dude. Tab says, identify this character by their well-known roles. Stephen Keaton and Burt Gummer. Doesn't ring a bell. Terribly sorry. Doug says, hello, Bob et al. Who's Al? Well, anyway, hello, good to see you as well. David says, hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. We're going to put on the power. And Sean says to Angela, it was you in the car accident, right? How was your wrist doing? Yeah, I think she said she had to have a surgery. And Keith says, I hope I do working tomorrow. Good luck with that. Angela. Cindy says Marvin Gaye had a better song about witness. And Indy Spout says that question is gross, Tab. And I bet there's a clue in there somewhere. And Michael Gross. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Michael Gross. And Lance Javen says right afterwards, Michael Gross. Well, I got it with a clue, but thank you, Lance, for setting it up in case I didn't get it. Gary says thank you to Olivia Newton John. A lot of people saying hello to Tug. Harold says my face is very red from spending yesterday in the water park. LOL. A little cocoa butter should do wonders. Danny's given us another link. Cindy says Beverly Hills Cop is the best. Angela says, need surgery, Sean. Ulnar bone needs to be shortened a bit. It's pushing up against my wrist bone. Oh, ow, that sounds painful. Ouch, 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 ouch. Owie, owie. And David says, let's do the safety dance. You can dance if you want to. You can leave your friends behind. You know, the actual name of the band wasn't Men Without Hats. It was Men Without Hate. There was a problem with printing the first album. There was a misprint, and they didn't have the money to go fix it. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a great story. Well, that's what happened with Rat Fink, a Boo Boo. It's Rat Fink and Boo Boo, but there was a misprint when the people who made the logo and they didn't have the money to redo it. Oh, Big Guys 45 is here. He says, hello, everybody. Good to see you, Big Guys 45. Thank you for joining us. And Ziploc says, best 80s movie is Pixote. And Teb says, identify the singer by their well-known songs. I honestly love you, Olivia Newton-John. Angela says, rained all day, now muggy as all get out. So been there. And Tug says, hello, hello, everyone. John Doe says, what was your thoughts on the amazing life of Sea Monkeys, the series? I just saw the opening credits. I don't remember the show. Was that an actual show? I don't remember the show, but the credits were like Waxville. And thank you for sending me those, John. It was very entertaining. And Big Guys 45 says, I wish America was less politically divided. You and me both, lad. You and me both. And Cindy says, I will thank you, Lance. And Tug says, apologies if I don't greet each of you individually. Well, there's a lot of us. There's actually 20. Whoa, there's 20 in the chat and only 10 likes. We could do better than that, peoples. Uh-oh, I jumped again. Well, I'm going to skip back because I think I was catching up. Here we are. Ziplik says, yes, you did. Christopher says, hi, Tug and Big Guy. Gary says, what do you think about my excuse? Excuses are like things I use all the time. So I love your excuse. And just give us a link. Wajimeen says, hello, everybody. Wajimeen, so glad you could make it. Danny, please give a link for Big Guys and Wajimeen. And Big Guy says Abraham Lincoln does the Macarena while Big Bird watches him in the background and starts dancing all around. Love it. Tug says, did you start with your theme song tonight, Bob? I have not as yet attached. I think the best way to do that is with StreamYard. And you guys remember every time I tried to use StreamYard, I crashed. But for those of you who don't know, please, 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 it's on my channel. Check out my new theme song brought to me by mega friend of channel, original friend of channel, Dave Sunstrom. I was going to mention that sooner, but most of you have already checked it out. But for those of you who didn't, yes, I have my own new theme song now. And Indy, you were so correct with all the little subtle influences in there. But I also picked up one myself. There's just a hint of Slade. Get your hands off my power supply. In there as well, but at least that's what I heard. And Dave says going to be 45 on 11th. And I'm just going to skim gently. There we go. And Teb says identify this actor by his well-known role, Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund, who was also in V. And he had a great supporting role in V. And Dave's giving them the link. And John says, hey, you guys. And it's Robert Englund. Very good. A lot of people get Robert Englund, actually. And Gary Carpenter says, I told my sister to take it back to Walmart. It kept me from eating and sleeping. And a lot of people saying hello and having fellowship. And he says, it's certainly not my favorite, but Wall Street gives a pretty good snapshot of the 80s. I'll give you that, but let's face it, Repo Man just feels like the 80s with the music, the fashion, the blatant consumerism, the casual racism, sexism, gender phobia. It just all comes together, and it's got a great soundtrack. Dave says, two bat poles, let's go. And Cindy says Michael Gross that he's not. And Keithy says, Z, Thursday, I cross over my 4 month ahead of you. And Zublik says, so you're 67. Got it. And Tug says, Lance just got back in town, exhausted. Yeah, you went to Kentucky to the Mammoth Canyon. You see any mammoth? And Daddy says, there is a storm here that is bad. If you drop out, we'll understand. And Indy Spout says to Tug, and boy, are your arms tired, but I'm bumped. And I'm going to skim because we're already behind. And Keithy says, yes, I'm going to the Crypt Keeper convention and saving you a spot for November. Gary Gabber says some of them can pass for under 25. Wow. Oh, and John Doe says Tremors. I'll buy that. And JRA says Norman Parker Parker discount Michael Gross. You know, also reminded me of Michael Gross. You know, in Star Wars, when they capture Princess Leia, and Darth Vader is sort of reveling in his own success, even though he can't find the droids. And there's a young officer who's like, taking her hostage is dangerous. It'll bring her sympathy in the Senate. I always thought that guy looked like Michael Gross. So you know what? See the opening sequence of Star Wars again and tell me if you think that guy looks like Michael Gross. Dave says, birthday to me on Thursday, 21. You'll be 45. Happy birthday, Dave. Len says to be safe to Danny, okay. And Zublik says, one step closer to death's door. Like, my nightmares aren't haunted enough as it is. And Tim says, identify the actress by her well-known roles. Shirley Eatonton, Latchery, Vivian Ward, and Aaron Brockovich. Oh, yes. One of my favorites. Julia Roberts. I like Emma Roberts, by the way. In fact, I just saw American Horror Delicate. Wasn't as good as the rest of them, but it was pretty good. And Gary says, Geek, are your arms tired? There we go again. Dominic D says, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Hi, hi, hi. And Chana says, happy early birthday. You're still a kid. At 45. And Wajimine just guessed Emma Roberts, and he is correct. And I'm going to play catch up again. Here we go. Eric Roberts' sister. Yes, Eric Roberts' sister. Who's Emma's dad, actually. And Angela says Guns N' Roses, Dominic. And Indy says, I remember reading years ago that men without hats got their name for not wearing hats during the winter in Canada, but that was at least 40 years ago. I may be wrong. That makes more sense. I must confess, that makes more sense. John Doe says, that was a short-lived one season on CBS. I doubt it made a full season. Probably not. Sean says, lollygaggers, hit the like button here. Yes, lollygaggers. We have 21 and only 16. Lens also says hit the like. Danny's giving us another link. Thank you. Doug says the safety dance was written in response to the pogo dance epidemic that politicians called dangerous. You're kidding. I never knew that. Keely says, Dave, when you were born, I was managing a Holiday Inn and celebrating my birthday. Congratulations on your birthday from 59 years ago. And John Doe says, I like when Doctor Who says it's doctoring time and the doctors all over the dialects. It's doctoring time. That was actually the name of a made-up band I had. It was called Doctor Who and the Watts. And Dennis gave another link. Angela says, it's an awesome theme song. Thank you, Angela. And WD says, yes, great new theme song. Thank you. And Dennis giving us another link. And Gary says, Joanne Woodward is now a 92 and living in Connecticut with family and has Alzheimer's. Oh, that's so sad. Um, and he says, naughty Holder rules. Yes, naughty Holder does rule, doesn't he? And he says, I love Eric Roberts. He plays bad guys well. Some good guys too. Was he in the Legend of Billie Jean? Or is that Peter Coyote? I haven't seen that movie in over 30 years. Zublik says, Pixote was better, very gripping. I'll take your word for it. And he's giving us a link. And he says, the music, the fashion were always the passion at the Copa. We are so going to that concert. Angela says They Live is awesome. Keith David, as you guys know, is one of my favorite 80s actors. And Roddy Piper actually did a pretty good job in that movie as well. And again, it's John Carpenter, so it's actually a good one. Brogo's here says hello, everyone. Hello to you too, Brogu. Lynn says, Angela, hope you get better soon. Yes, we all do. We all do. Emily's here says, hey, y'all. Hey, Emily, so good to see you. Keith E says, what came first, Keith or the chicken? I'm guessing the chicken. John Doe says, what remake was worse, A Nightmare on Elm Street or Poltergeist? Oh, I'm gonna have to say Poltergeist. I thought the Krueger remake wasn't as bad as a lot of other people did. It wasn't good, but I'm gonna have to say Poltergeist. And I'm gonna skim down because it's almost 8 and I'm way behind, and I'm looking to make a deal. Fire on the Mountain, run, boys, run. Jonas says Michael Gross played a loony lefty in Family Ties, then played anti-government consecutive in Tremors. Good point. Good point. Lynn says, don't relish on catching up. What do you mean says BRB getting dinner? Tug says, I always thought that Imperial Jailer who asks, what is that thing doing here was Rutger Hauer. Ooh. Ooh, I'm going to double check on that. You might be onto something. And Teb says, identify this child star by his well-known role. Kevin McAllister. Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of it. Jubilee says, must have a bad nightmare. Sean. Emily says, only because I'm catching up on The Boys. Have you all seen Diabolical, the animated shorts of The Boys? I have not. And Danny says, Burt Gummer is an American icon. And Sean says, Michael Gross on Family Ties was a dead ringer for Professor I Hated. Wow. And there we go. So now that I caught up on that end, I'm gonna go down this away. See if I can. John Doe says, Emily, both sides are corrupted. Keith says 7:52 your time, so I'm only 4 minutes behind. And Daryl says, please hit the like button. Emily says, John, I'm a loony lefty, better than being a corrupt conservative. Jerry says, Billie Jean is not my lover. Very well played. Brogan says, Michael Jackson said that Billie Jean is not his lover. She's just the one who says that I am the one. Similar experience actually happened to the Canadian pop singer. You know what I'm talking about. He's married to a Baldwin now. And anyway, I'm going to skip up. Tug says, Lance, next Sunday, part 1 of Creature Features. Thrash's attendance is mandatory. I will be there and or square. Cindy says, my teacher switched me at 5 years old from left hand to right hand. Never understood why. Because they're fascists. John Doe says, Emily, both sides are corrupted. Daryl says, again, please hit the like button. Keith says, I was like 19, disliked 42, and report 75. He's talking in numbers now. Emily says, my ex would slap my son's hand every time he used his left. He too was a fascist. And Tug says Poltergeist was a soulless remake nightmare, had some interesting ideas, but the execution was terrible. Um, what you said. And Jundra says they used to delete people who were left-handed. They did. They did. It was sinister. Sinister meant left-handed. Angela says Home Alone. Yes, and we all know who I'm talking about. And Bieber, Justin Bieber was the Canadian pop icon who I couldn't believe I couldn't think of his name. And it says, maybe so, John, but at least one side isn't trying to take away women's rights and freedoms. Um, I normally stay away from politics on this channel like it was a hard day's work. But Emily, I'm giving you a hall pass on that one because it is that important. Um, Everyone, please take that in the spirit it was meant. Love you all. And Shannon says, Emily, remember, well, that's not, no, here we go. And Teb says, identify this singer by her well-known songs. I Will Always Love You, Jolene, 9 to 5, Islands of the Stream, Dolly Parton. And Indy Spouts jumped off the page. For Christ's sake. And he says, oh, is that it? Oh, here it is. I appreciate the effort on showing the other side in the Poltergeist remake. That's actually a very good point. I thought making Freddy Krueger a three-dimensional character is probably the most interesting thing they did. And Angela says, funny thing, Emily, both of my parents were lefties, but my mom discouraged us from using our left hands from childhood. Wow, that was odd. And Emily Miller says, Cindy, I feel like it really messed him up somehow. I can only imagine. And Key says, I'm the only righty in my entire family. Really? No kidding. And Cindy says, my brother is still left-handed, and I'm glad he wasn't deleted. Good point. And John says, hit the like button, show some love. Yes, and John, I will try to call you again this week. And Emily says, why Zuper? Maybe to make it easier in school. And Gary Carter says to Keithy, right-handed people live a lot longer than left-handed. And Lance says 18 here and 21 likes. Oh, excellent. And Emily says, my oldest grandson is a southpaw. And Angela says, typing on my iPad while watching this on my smart TV, so forgive my typos. Forgive my babbles. Jenny's giving us a link. She says, because they were in the right mind. Bump. And Cindy says, it probably did. Jerry says, it seems like the comments are jumping around a lot. That's because I'm trying to keep up. So what I'm doing is I'm actually reading comments that were from things that were mentioned before. Chance did that earlier today. Danny, when you responded to my who would win in a battle, the Doomsday Machine or the Death Star, you responded properly, but he hadn't read the question, so there was no context. And Emily says, Cindy, my ex hit a lot. Ooh, commiserations, miss. And Keith says, I think executive chefs is the most left-handed profession. Probably. And Superplex says nothing new here. Lance is sorry to Emily. Jerry says trivia, name the awful movie that just happened to star David Bowie. Don't give the game away. That's actually where we're going with this. And Johnny Archer said, just got back from Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the theater. I forgot how good it is. Practical effects. Oh, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. And Emily says, and our power is flickering. At least I'm caught up in the boys. And Johnny says to Thrice Bono and Emily Miller, I wasn't making a pun, by the way, hitting kids for dumb stuff. Smoof. No worries, Sean. Everything you say here is aces. We are all friends. And Gary Carpenter says Labyrinth was a great movie. It certainly was. And Lynn says Poltergeist is here. Yeah, I kind of know. And Emily's saying thank you to Sean. And John says, last I'll say, illusions of choice government. And Brogu says they deleted left-handed people. I can imagine what they would do with my cute little green self. Oh, Brogu. And Jay says, something is wrong with me. I can write with either hand the same. Oh, you're ambidextrous. And Emily says, John, last I'll say. And Tug says, Lance beat me to the answer. And again, don't give the game away, guys. And Keith says it's 8 o'clock. It's 8:03 here. I'm catching up. And I'm just gonna kind of skim through. What you mean is back? He says hello, Bobby. A lot of people saying hello to Bobby. Oh no, we're talking about our friend Bobby. Bobby, welcome to the chat, Bobby Renee. Yes, it's the host with the most. So glad you could make it. John H is here too. John says happy July to all. John H, so glad you could make it. Haven't seen you in a while. So glad to see you guys. And Denny says sometimes I know the answer before they ask questions. A quick example: Labyrinth, The Man Who Fell to Earth, and Spiders from Mars. LOL. Guess why they fit? And Jared says Rita Moreno was terrible in The Golden Girls. Oh, I know. And Zubik says I think the Hunger was a great movie. Catherine Deneuve and Susan Sarandon getting it on. Yum yum. In fact, on that note, guess what? I'm going to start the trivia because we're going to start talking about David Bowie's career, and a lot of my trivia are film related. So I'm going to cut right into the trivia. If I miss anyone's comments, please forgive. And as always, I'm going to start in no particular order. I almost lost my microphone there. Number 10. Mr. Bowie's first starring role was in this sci-fi cult film. Was it A, The Man Who Fell to Earth, B, A Boy and His Dog, C, Logan's Run, or D, Damnation Alley? And I shall repeat. Mr. Bowie's first starring role was in this sci-fi cult classic. Was it A, The Man Who Fell to Earth, B, A Boy and His Dog, C, Logan's Run, or D, Damnation Alley? Not the gay. People are doing really well. Almost all of you got the correct answer. Cindy says, married to the he beautiful Iman. You go. And Bobby says, Brogu, wow, you handsome. And anyway, and John Doe says, not a Bowie fan, so I'm going to say Batman. The correct answer, as most of you got, is A, The Man Who Fell to Earth, which I'm not a huge fan of. It has its merits, but it just, I don't know. Moving forward. Number 9. Mr. Bowie gained fame with appearances on this late-night TV show. Was it A, SNL, B, The Tonight Show, C, Fernwood Tonight, or D, Burt Sugarman's Midnight Express? I misspelled A. Don't worry, we got the gist of it. Spelling doesn't count on this program. I shall repeat. Gained fame with appearances on this late-night TV program. Was it A, SNL, B, The Tonight Show, C, Fernwood Tonight, or D, Burt Sugarman's Midnight Express? Search for tomorrow. A lot of people, pardon what? A lot of people going for the bait. Every now and then I throw in one that sounds right, what isn't. I'm going to give you guys a few more. Oh, Tug said C. Oh, Fernwood Tonight was a good guess. He did have musical guests on periodically. Jerry says, wow, definitely not a Bowie fan. Brogu said it should be the Midnight Special. Yes, it should have been. It should have been. But the correct answer in this case was A, SNL. First, second season, he was a musical guest a number of times, and he did some of his more experimental glam rock, which kind of put him on the map. But so he says, shine the light on you. You know, it's so funny when I was first doing for some reason I was thinking Midnight Special instead of Midnight Express as well. Let the Midnight Special shine a light on me. If you're ever in Houston, boy, better walk right. Boy, better not gamble, and you better not fight. I kind of like the rockabilly version that they do in yeah, Cool Hand Luke. A little better than the Credence version. I do love Credence's version, but of course they took a lot of the stuff from folk rock as well, and I'm wandering all over the place. Tug says you want to see something really scary, Twilight Zone. But yes, it was SNL. And now moving on to number 8. Mr. Bowie lost the use of his eye in what incident? A, an accident during military training. B, a stage accident. C, a fight over a girl. Or D, none of those things. He always had a bad eye. He was born that way. I shall repeat. Mr. Bowie lost the use of his eye in what incident? A, an accident during military training. B, a stage accident. C, a fight over a girl. Or D, none of the above. He was born with his eye that way. And you people say you're not Bowie fans. Although some people are guessing. And let's see, I have no clue. Well, no clue or not, you're right. Oh, look who's here. Tracy's here. Bubba, Tracy. You're not late. Tracy, you're right on time. So good to see you, my lady, my dear, my friend. Yeah, see, of all things, he got into a fight over a girl. And it was like one of his best friends, too. But the guy cleaned his clock and they tried to restore the site for like 4 months, but it was not to be. I wish I had a friend so good that I could blind him in one eye and he'd still be friends with me. Lobo Grizzly here says, howdy all. Still in my backstage area, but sitting here to help with watch time. Lobo Grizz, you are one of the good ones. I was only able to stop by briefly for your show because I'm preparing for mine. But Dan, please give Mr. Grizz here a link. Oh, and by the way, like your show, I wish I could have stayed longer. I love just as we're getting good. Pardon me, but C was the correct answer. And now moving on to number 7. Mr. Bowie once did an entire album loosely based on the works of this mega sci-fi icon. Was it A, H.G. Wells, B, George Orwell, C, Robert Heinlein, or D, Brian Wilson Aldiss? Hold on. Much better. I shall repeat. Oh, Emily says, Cindy, my son Duncan raves about his half sister. Says she's got her mom's looks and her dad's vocals. I never heard your ex sing, by the way, but the mom's looks is more than enough. And Bobby says no. Heineken, Robert Heineken. Did I repeat? Well, I'm going to repeat anyway. Mr. Bowie once did an entire album loosely based on the works of this mega sci-fi icon. A, H.G. Wells, B, George Orwell, C, Robert Heinlein, or D, Brian Wilson Aldiss. John says Duck Dodgers in the 25th and a half century. Emily says no, Thrash Bowie's son is Duncan. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had a son named Duncan, and I apologize. Thank you for pointing that out. Although I'm sure all your children have your beauty. And Bobby says, Wedge, stop calling people B. And LOL, Bobby. And anyway, the correct answer, of course, was B, George Orwell, and the album was Diamond Dogs, which, of course, was loosely based on 1984. One of my favorites, too, by the way. And in the Death. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I used to have that whole shtick memorized, by the way. Um, Emily says, no, they're pretty. Oh, you're pretty. And number 6, and then we'll get scores. Supposedly had an intimate relationship with this famous celebrity kook. Was it A, Jane Fonda, B, Susan Sarandon? Did I say C? I'll come again. A, Jane Fonda, B, Susan Sarandon, C, Joan Baez, or D, Grace Slick? I'll repeat. Supposedly, Mr. Bowie had an intimate relationship with this famous celebrity kook. A, Jane Fonda, B, Susan Sarandon, C, Joan Baez, or D, Grace Slick? Cindy, more about that later. Wow, a lot of people picking D. Wow. Grace Slick's amazing, by the way. I saw her live in 1984. Ironically, in 1984. Wow, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, I saw her. I believe it was right around the time they went from Jefferson Starship to just Starship. Um, uh, Fortunately, spent most of the concert playing their old classic stuff and not their new stuff like "We Built This Sunday on Rocky Road," which is actually a song I actually submitted. Well, I never actually submitted a song I wrote for Weird Al. I just wasn't particularly good. We built this Sunday. We built this Sunday on Rocky Road. Uh, anyway, the correct answer is B. Susan Sarandon. Ironically, I think it was before they even worked on The Hunger. But they were romantically involved at some point. Now, let's see some scores. Zublik, wow, Zublik is 5 out of 5. That's a record for you. I'm sure it's not the only time you've gotten 5 out of 5, but I'm very proud. John H is 2 of 5. Angela's 5 for 5. Emily is an L. What you mean is 3 of 5. Sean Innes is 2 of 5. Cindy is 5 for 5. Tug's like, well, she had already slept with Frankenfurter. You raise a valid point. Emily's actually 3 of 5. Bobby is, I don't know. It's okay if you don't keep score. We're just doing this for fun. Tab is 3 of 5. Johnny Orchard is 2 of 5. Tug is 3 of 5. Harold is LOL. I was thinking Grace Jones. Ha ha ha. Ooh. Oh, I would never call her a kook. She was amazing. But Grace Slick ran a pig for president. That's kind of kooky, baby. That's a kooky thing to do, baby. Brogu is 2 of 5. Keithy says, no one stinking correct answer, Keith. It's okay if Bowie's not your fort. And Dominic D is 3 of 5. Zublik says, yes, it is amazing. And Harold is 3 of 5. And Gary is 5 for 5. And John Doe is, I believe my score is 444. I believe my score is 444. Something Easy Reader would have said. And then he says, OMG, Harold, me too. Okay, so I think that's all the scores. Cindy says, I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect for you. Moving on to number 5. He co-starred in this intense, unconventional war film. A. Das Boat. B. Helm the Pacific. C. Ron. Or D. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Which I believe I've mentioned on a previous post, but not in regards to Mr. Bowie. Anyway, number 5, repeat. Co-starred in this intense, unconventional war flick. A. Das Boat. B. Helm the Pacific. C. Ron. Or D. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. And John Doe says Wayne's World. Wayne's World. Wayne's World. And Keith says he sang Little Drummer Boy with Bing Crosby is the closest I'm going to get to the right answer. At one point, that was the number 1 selling single in Earth history. It may have been surpassed. I don't think so, since they don't really sell singles anymore. But at one point, that was the number 1 selling single of all time. Audrey says John Belushi's widow just died. Yes, Teb told me. Thank you. Oh, and we lost, Martin Mull, and we lost Donald Sutherland, and we've had a lot of heavy casualties. And Bobby says Indies show off. And Hatter says, I don't know, B. The correct answer is actually D. D. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Merry Christmas with Tom Conte. And I'm going to butcher this poor guy's name. I'm sorry. Yurikio Sakamura, who wrote the theme song to it. He also wrote the theme song to The Last Emperor and played who did he play in The Last Emperor? I know the guy. He was a very famous Japanese filmmaker. He made propaganda films for the Japanese during the war. Where's the outcast creative when you need him? But yeah, he was in The Last Emperor. But he has like the whole movie is about the pissing contest between David Bowie, a POW in this Japanese prison camp, and the commander, and it's an absolutely amazing movie. John Doe says Robert Town, R.I.P. That's another good one. John Doe says I'd rather talk about wallpaper than death in the news. Sorry, John. Apologies. Tug says that pronunciation wasn't terrible. Dobo arigato, Tug sama. And Angela says, I just guessed on that last one. Well, I guess you guessed correctly. And Key says, that's what you do if you're choking on a beer bottle cap, is the Heineken maneuver. I saw some of that on Facebook today, too, by the way. Great meme, by the way. Great meme, by the way. Excellent. So, yes, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. Moving on now to number 4. Mr. Bowie had a supporting role in this erotic thriller. And you guys are already going to say the answer before I give the selections, but I'm going to give them anyway. A. Cat People, B. The Hunger, C. Flesh Gordon, or D. Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. Such a gross movie. I shall repeat. What he means is, don't what he got for no. Don't what he got for no to you too, by the way. Had a supporting role in this erotic thriller. A. Cat People, B. The Hunger, C. Flesh Gordon, or D. Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. Zublik says yummy. Yeah, I'm gonna. You know what? From you, I'm gonna accept that. John Doe says it's Dominic the Donkey. Wasn't that an old Christmas tune? Dominic the Donkey. He pulls in a sleigh through the hills of Italy. Tug says he did play a great Warhol, though, but I won't say any more on that case. And Indy says he did play Warhol in Basquiat. He did, didn't he? There's actually another Warhol related question, but I'll get there in just a second. Of course, yes, the correct answer is The Hunger, which I saw when I was in high school. And again, it was I remember my buds and I were like, this isn't a horror movie, it's an adult movie. At least it was adult for us. Anything was adult for us when you're like 16. Number 3, according to lore, according to anecdotal evidence, Mr. Bowie wrote the song Andy Warhol for whom? You see, I told you another question. Was it A. Carly Simon, B. Mick Jagger, C. Dana Gillespie, or D. Andy Warhol? I'll come in again. According to lore, Mr. Bowie wrote the song Andy Warhol for whom? A. Carly Simon, B. Mick Jagger, C. Dana Gillespie, or D. Andy Warhol? And Tug says message retracted. John Doe says thrash. It is, and I knew you'd say that. I am predictable. And he says, oops. He did play Warhol Basquiat. Yes, he did. And Harold says Dominic the Donkey is an old Christmas song. Yeah, he pulls the sleigh through the hills of Italy. And John Doe says Tom Selleck. And Shannon says, D, too obvious. Is it? Is it too obvious? A lot of people are saying B. I think everyone would say Carly Simon because the whole joke is people want to know who she wrote You're So Vain for, so people would write a song about her just for vengeance. A lot of people are saying B. Well, so far, I've seen at least one correct answer, but it isn't B and it isn't D. It's actually Dana Gillespie, a woman he was romantically involved with. Apparently, she was a huge Warhol fan, and he wrote the song for her. Now, I got to tell you something. When I do these trivia questions, by and large, I pick questions that I know the answer to. 'Cause I figure if I know the answer, that gives you folks a fighting chance. I must confess, I did not know that, but it was such a fun fact I had to use it. Sydney says it's me, LOL. A woman, David Zuplik says a woman named David. No, Dana Gillespie. And moving forward to number two. Oh. Many consider his video for this song to be the most uninspired, phoned in dog's breakfast of a video of all time. Is it A, Dancing in the Streets, B, Pretty Pink Rose, C, Let's Dance, or D, all of the above? I shall repeat. Many consider his video for this song to be the most uninspired, phoned in dog's breakfast of a video of all time. Is it A, Dancing in the Streets, B, Pretty Pink Rose, C, Let's Dance, or D, all of the above? Or John does it Rocket Ship XM. Tug says, I love how Carly Simon wrote a song about a guy being vain and another one for James Bond about a guy being the greatest. You raise a very, 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 very valid point. And it turned out it wasn't. It was not Mick Jagger. But I always wanted to be Mick Jagger. And you wonder why I wanted to be Mick Jagger that she was singing that song about? Because Mick Jagger did background vocals on the song. And my thought process is Mick Jagger is actually just vain enough to do background vocals on a song about how vain he is. And anywho, someone said Dancing in the Streets. I actually Dancing in the Streets. I always felt that way to me. WD says, yeah, Dance was a pretty creative video that I remember. Emily says, Let's Dance was actually pretty good. Okay, I'll end you thusly. According to his fans, most people criticize Dancing in the Streets. And there's actually a story behind it. Apparently, they had a video choreographed and conceptualized and everything, and there was a strike in the country they were in, or a revolution, or something happened where they couldn't film. So Bowie and Mick just danced in the streets, and the whole thing was shot in like one night. And when you consider the resources they were working with, you have to admit it was solid, but a lot of people consider it thoroughly phoned in, and a lot of people consider it one of the worst videos of all time, particularly when you consider the talent behind it. Some people like Let's Dance. I like the song. I thought the video kind of phoned it in. I love Pretty Pink Rose. It's one of my favorite Bowie songs, even though it's a collaboration. But the video was just weird. So anyway, the official answer is A because that's what the fans say. So I'm going to go with the fan base. If you want to put D, go ahead. You know what? Everybody give yourself a point. I don't hurt anybody's feelings. Sydney says people said that about Ebony and Ivory too, sadly. Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. It was just such a nice song though, but yeah. There's no pleasing some people. Anyway, moving forward. The number one, at least for this installment, is according to anecdote by Mr. Bowie himself, he first met Mick Jagger where? Was it A, at the World's Fair, B, boarding school, C, the Altamont Music Festival, or D, a Little Richard concert. I shall repeat. According to an anecdote by Mr. Bowie himself, he first met Mr. Jagger where? Was it A, at a World's Fair, B, at a boarding school, C, at the Altamont Musical Festival, or D, a Little Richard concert? Traces Ebony and Ivory makes me want to pull out the Kleenex box. It's so maudlin. Oh, and John Doe says, as a kid, there was a rumor that David Bowie and Mick Jagger were buddy buddy in that way, but it was never taken seriously. Oh, I would bet my bank account on it. Sean said some people were oddly put off by the narrative of the young couple in the Let's Dance video. Really? Really? Huh. I'll buy that. Gary Carpenter says Mara Corday is now 94. I was just talking about her. I was just talking about Mara Corday because someone I believe it was Steve Peterman, somebody I know on Facebook was pointing out how Clint Eastwood's first movie was a horror movie. It was Revenge of the Creature. He played a lab student. But later on that year, he was also in the horror movie called Tarantula, which story goes he was very good friends with Mara Corday. And she basically got him the part. He plays a fighter pilot who blows up the spider. Supposedly years later, when she was having trouble finding work, he was doing the Dirty Harry movies. She had a recurring role as the waitress in the diner he frequents. Denny says Leatherboy nightclub, LOL. Indy says, I suspect Richard Penniman is involved. Tug says, Danny, you mean the Blue Oyster Bar? Zuberly says, Ebony and Ivory, so sweet, you're liable to get a toothache. Emily says, Bowie was by, and he admitted it, no big deal. You are very correct. That's why I have no trouble believing the Mick Jagger story. Danny says, how about the dancing in the streets video? Yeah, I know that's yes, that is correct. It was the one I picked. And anyway, where's my here it is. The correct answer is D. It was at a Little Richard concert. This is in like 1960, 62, early 60s. The Rolling Stones were opening up for Little Richard, and a small venue. And this old square in the audience yells out to Mick, "Why don't you get yourself a haircut?" And Mick fires back at him, "What? It ended up looking like you." And it just struck Boy, goes, there, that's the future of music. And they went on to become very, 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 very good friends, intensely good friends by some calculations. But the correct answer is D. So how about some scores? And Tug says, they both auditioned for Nicholas Roget's performance. Jagger got the job, but the Roget hired Bowie for the man who fell to earth. Oh, very good. Cindy says, I'm just waiting on a friend by the Stones. Was kind suspicious to me, but it's okay. Oh, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. So Luke says 8 of 10. Tug's high five, Harold. Angela says 9 of 10. Not too bad. That's very, very good. Very proud of you. Cindy says interesting geek. Trey says LOL Zuper. Key says 0 zilch nada nada snowball chance in hell. Nothing Zippo. Well, Keith, the fact that you played to the very end is an inspiration to us all. You are the man, and thank you for joining us tonight. Tug is 7 for 10. Watch Me is 7 for 10. John H is 2 for 10. Johnny Orchard is 2.5 out of 10. I give yourself partial credit on that other one, huh? Very good. Cindy is 8 for 10. Emily is, I don't know much about Bowie before the 80s. That's fine. Andy says, I believe I got some of them. Right, I'm sure you did. Emily is 6 for 10, I think. Tug says, Emily, he didn't either, by his own recollection. And Johnny says, I know one piece of trivia that you didn't ask. David Bowie had to change his name since his real name was David Jones. In fact, I was going to use that, but people got to talking last week and gave it away. Yes, he changed his name from David Jones because of Davy Jones, who was on stage at the time playing the Artful Dodger. He, of course, went out to the Monkees. There was also a pop band in England at the time called Davy Jones's Locker. He took the name Bowie because his favorite movie, and you're gonna have to help me out here again, was the movie about Jim Bowie and his famous knife. So he took the name David Bowie. And Sean says 6 for 10, but a bit of recovery in the later half. Roger in pronunciation. He directed Don't Look Now. Rogue. Sorry, I look like Roger to me, but thank you. Emily says Tug, fair point. WD 6 for 10. John Orton said some wherein the spiders from Mars are shedding a tear. I can see that. And Harold says, I lost track, but I think it was 6 or 7 out of 10. We'll give you 7 out of 10. So Luke says, Davy Jones, you are correct. Tab is 6 for 10. Excellent. Tug says, he used to drink orange juice, lands with Coke, and I don't mean soda. Ooh. Vitamin C, and it'll keep you up all night. John Doe says, David Bowie was an awesome entertainer. I met him doing a delivery. I just got paid to bring him a package. Didn't look at it, didn't think about it, just got paid to do a delivery. He did tip. Well, that's an awesome story. Anytime you meet a celebrity is pretty darn cool. Thank you. And Tug says the things he used to keep in his locker. I know, right? I have 2 foot lockers in my bridge. One says property of Davy Jones. The other one says Peter Tork. I need to go out and get a third locker so that I can update the joke. And Indy's Boat says the Iron Mistress, Bob. Thank you. Yes, the Iron Mistress. Which I tried to find in the interim because I haven't seen that since I was a kid. But the Iron Mistress, yes. But I did do some research. The title eluded me. Emily says his son Duncan Jones is pretty active on Twitter. And Johnny says Roger's Thesaurus. Wasn't that a prize they used to give you when you ordered Time magazine? You got a copy of Roger's Thesaurus and the Collegiate Dictionary. Someone stole. I had a vintage. I had a 19th century Roger's Thesaurus, and someone stole it. I have no words. Thesaurus. And China says to John Doe, nice, always interesting running across certain people in an everyday sort of way. Zublik says lots of recording artists were Coke users. Yeah, we're talking about Chicago. And WD says not just for breakfast anymore. And John says Duncan Jones is a fairly accomplished movie director. That's very cool. And Indy says to Tug, all hail K. And Indy says, you don't talk about Bowie and his wife, Iman, whom he married in 1992. Didn't he have like 4 wives over the years? But I must confess, I did not mention Iman. I'm working on the railroad. Tug says Duncan's made some good movies and also some stinkers. That is a director. And just says, I only met one celebrity in my life, Alan Rickman. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. John Doe says, I met Madonna doing a job and she is a horrible nightmare dealing with. Oh. Very sad to hear it. Sean says Duncan Jones directed Moon and Source Code. Keith says, what's another word for another word for another word for thesaurus? That's an old Stephen Wright bit. Very good. Zublik says there is a joke in the industry that rock and roll would not exist without the medicated effects of cocaine. I will buy that. Christopher says, I have an autographed CD from the Monkees. That is awesome. That is so cool. And Angela says, oh, wait, I met Jerry O'Connell too. He's cool. He's cool. I wish my parents loved me enough to send me to the same fat camp they sent him to. And Bobby says, our host turned evil. I did. Oh, news to me. But thank you for the update. And Emily says, Bowie was only married twice, I believe. I thought it was more than that, but you're probably right, Emily. Anthony says she was his last wife when he died. Ah. And Sean said 2 wives, I think. Angie, Duncan's mom, and Imam. Okay. Maybe those were just people he lived with. Tracy says message retracted. The message retracted to you too. WT says supposedly Mick Jagger wrote Angie for one of David Bowie's wives. I'll buy that. And John Doe says I met Conan O'Brien, Don King, Doc Brown, and 4 or 5. That's very cool. And Emily says, to my knowledge, I've never met a celeb. I may have run into James Best when he was in Hickory, North Carolina, but wouldn't have recognized him. You wouldn't have recognized James Best? How could you not recognize James Best? Probably says, I met Geraldo, but he don't count. And Regis, they certainly do. They certainly do. Biggest celebrity I met, let's see, I met June Lockhart when I was a kid. I met the guy on Murphy Brown. He played the commentator on the Rival Network. I've met Linda Blair. I've met some others. Vern Troyer. I met Vern Troyer. He was a riot. He was a riot. And Tug says, I've met a few celebs when I worked at Disney. They seem to fall into one of 2 camps: egotistical nitwits or humble guys who don't understand why they're famous. That's pretty much it, yeah. And what do you mean says, I only met John Cougar Mellencamp and Michael Damon. And Angela says, well, John Mellencamp's very cool. I'm not familiar with Michael Damon off the top of my head, but I'm sure he's cool. Angela says, Jerry was cool. Met him the same night I met Alan. Both were very nice. Emily says, what do you mean? Michael Damon has family in North Carolina. Oh, very cool. Cindy says, them Dukes. Them Dukes, them Dukes, them dry Dukes, them Dukes, them Dukes, them dry Dukes. And Johnny says, I know James Best from his classic TV appearances on Me TV, not from Dukes. Killer Shrews. Killer Shrews, anyone? WD says June Lockhart is still alive. She's 99 years old. Yes. And in the bridge, I still have the postcard that she autographed for me. I still have the postcard. And it's funny, the postcard of, and this is a complete total fluke, my uncle and cousin were out fishing one day in the shallows of Cape Cod, and this photographer took this beautiful photograph of them. So on the front is my cousin and my uncle. And John says, being in Manhattan, New York, you see a ton of celebrities, but rarely interact with them, I can imagine. And Zubul says, you met Michael York and he turned you off T-Ponce. That was the same night I met Vern Troyer. Yes, in fact, the whole story goes, I remember they were doing promotions for Austin Powers too. And it was when I was still working for the video outfit. And people were like lined out of the theater for Vern Troyer. But Michael York, I'm like, oh, wow, Michael York. I've got to get Michael York's autograph. I've been a fan of his, since I was like 7. And there's like a couple people ahead of me, but I wait. And he's got the 8x10 black and white glossies, and he just, as they're apt to do. And as I get mine, I look up at him and go, I've been a fan of yours since I saw you in Three Musketeers. And he went, oh, is that so? And I'm like, wow. Not only can he not care, he can't put in the effort to pretend to care. And then I go, I'm going to go get Vern Troyer's autograph. And I went over there. And so he's standing on a chair. He's standing on a chair so he can do his autographs. It's so cute. He looks like a little kid almost. And as I'm coming up there, um, I always make it whenever I meet a celebrity. I try to say something relevant to like what's going on in their career. Um, Shasta McNasty had just been picked up for a second season at that time. And as I'm getting my glossy, I go, uh, hey, congratulations on the show being renewed. And as if he didn't expect any of us to have actually watched the show, he got a looked up and went, hey, thanks. And I'm like, wow, I made Vern Troyer's day. So just shows to go, yeah. Michael Dimon was the Young and Restless and Joe's singing boyfriend in Facts of Life. Michael's married to the daughter of James Best. Thank you. All right, now I know who he is. And Johnny says, yes, is EMS is 100 now. Janice Page died, 101 recently. Wow. And Joan Collins is now 98. Wow. And Klinger from MASH is now 90. He was in Blackboard Jungle. How could I have not known that? How could I have not known that? And Tug says the biggest a-hole celebrity I ever met was Tom Clancy. I can imagine he would be a real, yeah, that dude thought he was more important than, wow. I could, he was very, very, I can see that. A lot of writers are full of themselves. John H says, yes, I'm hoping to meet Jamie Farr next Sunday with Loretta Swit. At Retro Expo. Oh, that sounds like a blast. And John says, who was the actor from MASH who did those Mars candy bar commercials? I don't remember the Mars candy bars commercials. But Johnny says it was Jamie Farr. And Diddy says, I told James Best I loved the Killer Shrews. And he says, we don't talk about that, young man. I love that movie. I saw it with my uncles when I was like a kid on like Creature Feature or something like that. And Sean says to Tug, whoa, that sucks. I'm sorry. He was such a D-bag. And Johnny says, I remember as soon as I hit the send button. And Cindy says, I heard they hate it when you interrupt their dinner. Well, yes, but in my case, they were at an autograph signing. And I didn't think I was interrupting the autograph signing by getting an autograph. But yes, they hate them when they're having like a personal moment. I was working at the OG when Adam Sandler came in for dinner with his family, and it's well known. It's well known that when Adam Sandler is in a restaurant, you leave him alone. The staff, you just try to get him his meal as politely and as low key as possible. And as he's walking out the door, a friend of mine, he's a really, really nice guy who's a Star Trek. As he walked, he goes, I have to tell you, I'm your biggest fan. You changed my life. And Adam Sandler was like, yeah, it's great. He's like, I was so close. I was almost out the door, and someone had to like, yeah. So Book says, yeah. Book jumps. That sounds about right, Tug. His books had characters as flat as the pages they were written on. Tracy says, but to be truthful, I met a lot of stars, so I'm not really starstruck. My dad works for Playboy. Wow, I did not know that. That is so cool. That is so cool. I did not know that. My mom works for CBS, so it was an everyday thing for me. Well, the fact that your dad was like besties with Harlan Ellison, I always thought was like cool squared. That's crazy. And of course, we both met Tom Baker. Dominique says, I remember Vern Troyer on The Surreal Life, drunkenly peeing on the living room floor. And that Russell Johnson did Attack of the Killer Crabs. Yes, he did Attack of the Crab Monsters. He certainly did. And Tug says, weirdly, some of the best celebs I've ever met were really tall Shaq, Michael Crichton. Yeah, Michael Crichton was like 6'8", I heard. And then he said Vic Morrow was in Blackboard Jungle as well. Vic Morrow, the chopper, Vic Morrow. It's only 10 feet away. Too soon? Johnny says Vic Morrow would be in his 90s if he was still alive. Yes, he would. Tracy says, Emily says, Tracy, it's probably the same thing for all kids raised in the industry. Was, yes, definitely. And Emily says, Tug, maybe you were just through your short phase. And Teb says McLean Stevens' career never fully recovered after infamously left MASH. He starred in so many sitcoms that bombed so hard they quickly got canceled, with the exception of Hello Larry. Yes, and Hello Larry was dreadful. The last thing I remember him doing was, and it was so sad. I needed airline tickets somewhere, and you know how when you go on their like call sites, they usually play something to like distract you while you're waiting for an operator to pick up. McLean Stevenson was doing blurbs for this airline where he pretends to be your travel agent and he keeps bumbling. And there's someone will be wear it with you, someone wear it with you. It was a cool stick, but I'm like, wow, how the mighty have fallen. And Garrett Cooper says Klinger was in the Blackboard Jungle. Yes, he certainly was. And Cindy says he regretted leaving MASH. Yes. Well, the problem was when they approached him, he thought it was going to be like McHale's Navy or Sergeant Bilko, where he was going to have this sort of like wacky staff of wacky people, and he was going to be like the commander that was always jumping in and fixing things and solving things, and it was all going to kind of center around him. But by the end of the pilot, everybody loved Alan Alda, so he became the center focus. John Doe says, I seen Tommy Lee and Vince Neil and a few days later, Dee Schneider. Excellent. And Tug says, Anne Rice was cool too. She liked Depeche Mode shirt. LOL. Sean says to Tracy, and more wasn't their office right. On Sunset, I think I used to pass it all the time. Huh. And John H. says, I heard a taped interview with McLean Stevenson where he stated he may have stayed on MASH if he had known he'd be getting a 5-time raise the next season. Wow. And John Doe says, I seen Tobey Maguire at the American Museum of Natural History promoting Spider-Man 3. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Tracy says, seen it. Sean, it was back in the 60s Chicago. And Gary says, geek, she's buried in New Orleans. And Zublik says, it was the curse of MASH. You leave the show at your own peril. Ain't that the truth? And Tug says, where she should be, Gary. And John Doe says, Superman used to hang out at the American Museum of Natural History. Oh, that's cool. And Indy says to Tracy, and more, same here. I've never been starstruck either, unless you include running away from Nutjob Sean Young. And oh, House of Alex. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in ages. House of Alex is here. And he says, hello, everyone. And you were just in time to say goodnight, House of Alex, because it is coming up on 9 o'clock. I'm losing my voice. And we're just wrapping things up. So, House of Alex, don't be such a stranger. And please check out my content channel. I have my own theme song now. Is that not cool, squared? And to all of you, those of you who also haven't checked it out, please do. I'm very, very, very proud of it. It was made by mega friend of channel, Dave Sundstrom. But of course, you guys are all friends of this channel. And I love doing these. And we're going to have them next week, too, by the way. So remember, next Sunday, I'll say special edition. It probably won't. I will have more trivia. Probably be movie related. I miss doing movie trivia. So I'll probably be movie related trivia. I might have some content over the course of this week. I haven't quite decided. But anyway, until next week, I want you all to be good, be safe, be careful. Take care of yourselves, guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.